Hello and welcome back to Aayanism. I'm your host, Ayan, and you are listening to a very straight, simple, no frill, no mumbo jumbo, straight talk. It's called Aayanisms. I talk about society, art, entertainment, culture, cricket, pets, movies, movie reviews, and everything outside your work. It's a slow burn content, and if this is something that floats your boat, then you are on the right show. In today's episode, I am going to talk about analyze without giving away the story of Jane Ja. Yes, the recent Netflix movie, Sujay Ghosh, director Kareena Kapoor Khan, Mr. Jaideep Ahlawat, and Mr. Vijay Verma, and Miss Kareena Kapoor Khan, of course, among other ensemble casts. But there will be no plot that I will share. It's more as an observation of the movie as a whole, and there will be some spoilers, so I'm giving you a fair warning, a spoiler alert. If this is something that you want to watch, then you hit the pause button right here, come back and revisit this channel to hear the rest of the conversation. Again, to be fair, I won't give away the plot twist or the detail as such, but when I talk about movie as a whole, as a 360-degree point of view, there might be some spoilers. So I'm giving you a fair warning. Again, if you've not watched it, please do go watch it and then come back. Okay, that disclaimer aside, the first thing first, right? Is it something that is worth a rewatch? The answer is yes. I'd probably rewatch it one more time to better pick up the mood, the sentiment, the subtleties. Like there are if you're listening it on the headphone, you will pick up the all a slew of old retro Hindi movie songs, Kishore Kumar songs, Rafi songs, and I think there was even one Bengali song, uh, which I thought was a nice, clever touch. So before I get into the details, let's zoom out. As a movie, what do you like? Like it's supposed to be a crime, drama, thriller, mystery, esoteric, if there is a separate genre for it. So does it check all those boxes? Yes. From a technicality standpoint, lighting, set design, location, does it do a good job? Yep, check box. From editing, uh, if on a scale of 5 being supremely perfect editing and 1 being terrible editing, this is somewhere around 3.5, 4, reasonably well edited. But when I zoom out again and see the movie, I probably cut about 30 minutes and probably end it at a more appropriate time than indulge into exposition and spoon feed as to why done it, the who done it. That's something that I thought about Andhadhun. If you had not seen that, Ayushmann Khurrana starrer, Radhika Apte starrer, did a fantastic job in initiating or leaving a movie well after it's over with the audience. Like that's a great job done, artistically speaking. That people are debating what happened. Did he not? Was he not? Again, no spoilers there if you haven't seen it. So, but those who have know exactly what I mean. This movie Janaja had the option to leave it little out there. And I know there's a section or segment of the audience who like to see a closure. And so I think, and I can't speak on behalf of Mr. Sujay Ghosh, but I'm guessing he would have to take that creative liberty and choice to finally add some exposition where 70-80% of the movie was largely non spoon fed, for lack of a better expression. So I like that kind of movies. If you do, then great. If not, if you like, oh, now I understood why, because then it will probably reach a larger mass. The question though is, does this warrant a mass consumption? Did you make it for the mass? I always ask this to, if I were to create a movie, who are you creating it for? And what are you creating it for? So if you're creating it for paisa vasool, return of investment, then clearly it has to be a adapted large massy way. If that is not the core construct and you're itching to tell a story for the sake of art, for the sake of artistry or the magic of cinema, and if it does go on to make money, great. But if it doesn't, you wouldn't necessarily regret, then that's a separate conversation. And then once you decide on these two, you then decide who are you making it for? Is this the 18 to 25? Is it 25 to 35 and 35 to 65? What audience will form the majority viewership for this product? I think those questions are very key and critical. Therefore, you can get a sense of the language they will understand, or the cinematic language or ability or delivery they will get it. Like clearly, if your target audience largely is, given the fact that 60% of the country is below the age of 30, if you're, and probably even 20-25% below the age of 22 or thereabouts. So if 18 to 25 are your majoritarian audience, that's the max. If there are 100 people in the theater and 70 of them are below 25, will this appeal to them, or will they go out and troll you and give troll you as in the movie, say, oh my god, it's so boring, where they probably missed uh, the subtlety, the light touch, the cleverness of it all, or the subtle undertext or undertones of the movie. If they miss that, then it kind of defeats the purpose, isn't it? So, but as a movie creator, can you create something with a disclaimer saying this is only meant for people between 35 to 55? Is it? Probably not. But I think finding the right balance is the biggest challenge. That while it should be a mass consumption that more people ought to and need to and must watch the movie, but also relating to the movie therefore becomes a challenge. So the fundamental presumption is that is the audience intelligent, or is the audience, let's say, not as intelligent as you would like it to be or like them to be? I think that's one of the biggest or the toughest questions that most creators and audiences, as I have for the podcast. Like it's very easy for me to do the same thing in Hindi. I love Hindi, so I would have had this thing. I know it would probably reach a larger audience, but I'm also very comfortable expressing myself in English. And so I know the audience will probably narrow down. But hey, that's a creative choice I made. And so I'd love to stick to that as much as possible, as far as possible. And so uh, a fair sprinkling of Hindi, English might creep in every now and then, but I guess that's on par for the course. So back to the movie. I think here are the things that I liked about it. I like the sound design. I like the setup. They've got this bluish tinge of this dreamy hill station get up and set up. It sucks you in. The costume design is well done. The setup of a small cafeteria in a small town, and that really appeals to me simply because you know and I'm not that I don't like big movies or anything of that sort, but there is a degree of fatigue on, at least as a audience, as a fan, on the big stuff that is happening. 1,000 dancers in the background and 50,000 people waving their hands. Somewhere I'm quite okay with a very simple five people story, or a three character story. It kind of gets you to grips very quickly, and you quickly understand that here is the protagonist, here is the antagonist, or so-called antagonist, and so on and so forth. And especially if it is layered and there are textures to it, it becomes that much more easier to grab our attention, or my attention, let's put it that way. So it's not that I don't like big budget blockbusters. I do. They have their own space, but I probably am tilting towards realistic cinema. I think somewhere the audiences are also growing up, in the sense, I mean, the star culture still is quite prevalent, excluding these 2 years of pandemic where people thought, let's the focus entirely went on to the content space and great storytelling, and some of those people who were in the background now are in the foreground. Think of Mr. Siddiqui, Mr. Tripathi, Mr. Menon, and Miss Apte, Miss Shifali Shah, and whole bunch of beautiful and wonderful actors, artists. Uh, and so now when the life is normalized and getting back into the same space it was, say, pre-pandemic, so also comes the muscle memory. So it was therefore not very surprising that Janija was released directly onto OTT and not going to the theaters. Earlier, probably they ought to have gone into the theaters with a larger spread, but they know they won't get a 3,000 screen release. It's better you get to 3 million people subscribe to Netflix is a better bet. So I get the creative choices that Mr. Ghosh has made, the choice of actors, fabulous casting. I thought even uh, the the uh, the characters which played lesser parts did a good job. But in my view, the movie really belongs to Mr. Lawat. Jaideep, from Patal Lok to here, fabulous job done. Completely shed off all the image of Hathiram Chaudhary, if you know what I mean. Done that very nicely. Subtle, and I know I'm really nitpicking because this channel is about fine tuning. Whenever Mr. Lawat's character would, the teacher would say, Mrs. D'Souza, the Z would come in with a J, D'Souza, somewhere like that. And that's a Haryanvi touch, which is overflow. I do not know if that is by design, if that is, or is it by default? Given that the teacher has been in Kalimpong for a while teaching in school, uh, my sense is he ought to have lost the previous accent. It's not a showstopper, but one picks it up. Mrs. D'Souza. It's a very North Indian uh, Haryanvi Jat um, flavor to it, if you will. And so I picked up a little bit on that, a little bit of reminiscent character inconsistencies like that. While you want to show a complete school teacher, uh, a quirky school teacher at that, uh, you captured the scenario that the guy is an eccentric genius and is trying to do a little bit of backstory, which came by way of Mr. Vijay Verma's character relating it. But I thought a little bit more character arc, all those 10 files that were there, what were they and why were they like this? There's a why curiosity that builds up for the teacher's character, which again, it's not a showstopper. If it isn't, then it isn't. Quickly switching to Mr. Vijay Verma's character, the cop's character. Uh, Quirky, cocky cop, if I may say so, comes out nice. I think the dojo sequence, I know it's a Japanese adaptation, and we have these creative liberties as a eternal debate in the creative circle that how much can an adaptation vary from the original? How much should we deviate? Is a I think one can always say for those who like it to be exact. Like if you like to think of Heather, Mr. Vishal Bhardwaj's adaptation of Shakespeare Macbeth, then it is very close. But if you look at Joji Fasil's adaptation, that's not very close, right? I mean, it's a great movie, nevertheless. Likewise, if you wanted to, and I haven't read this book by Mr. Keigo Higashino, San Higashino, probably written a great book. I do not know how close it is to the book. I think if I go back in time, Robert Redford's The Horse Whisperer, if you haven't seen that, that was probably one such instance where the movie I thought turned out better than the book itself. I read the book as well. But back to here. So the cop's character, there were little inconsistencies in his arc and editing inconsistencies. Somewhere it had to gradually, you have landed up in one place chasing. Why were you chasing this guy? What was that reason? Some questions were left unanswered there. And why were you so intensely chasing this person? Now that, why is the extra need for curiosity? Could have had maybe a scene or two more that could kind of not like have 30-minute segment added to it. It's not that, but maybe a scene or two, like a back fade coming in and saying, oh, this is why the curiosity grew over a period of time. That being said, Mr. Verma did a fantastic job. I think his versatility is evident, especially the last thing I saw was Darlings, in which he did a commendable job. And then from Darlings to this character is a commendable jump, both for, I think it's more so for Mr. Alawa than it is for Mr. Verma. Uh, did a nice job. I thought it could have toned down a little bit. I mean, you wanted to show a sharp character, great, got it, but sharp character need not always be the slick character unless it was written that way. So I'll leave that disclaimer aside that maybe it was written that way. But purely going by the sentiment, the texture of the movie, I thought the sharpness could have toned down a little bit, yet being sharp, more like curious and inquisitive. Like, oh, well, if this happened, and logical as well. Like, oh, if this happened, then why did that happen? And then you don't overdo that. So some bit of fine tuning probably, and he's a fine actor, make no mistake about that. But I thought that would have eased off some of the edges, as it were. Finally, Miss Khan did a well. The glam quotient shows right from the intro scene, the exaggerated movement of the hair and the head and the dramatics of it, the theatrics of it. Somewhere it needs to slow down. I think overall she did a decent job. I think she's got great ability to have a very emotive face, especially when uh, she's scared. You know, that comes out very authentically. It comes out very nicely. But for some of the other scenes, I think she will probably get used to the OTT pacing of it all, is my sense. But clearly, there is a lot that could have been explored of her. She's clearly it's the tip of the iceberg. She's got a lot of stuff inside, I'd imagine, which, if given a powerful story, will emerge. And I hope she does more solid, strong content, which challenges the perception that we have of the star. And that's the biggest ticket, isn't it? That your biggest success is when you manage to delineate the star personality from the character, that then the people only identify with the character that you're portraying on screen, not the superstar or film star that you are. That to me is probably the biggest credit that a uh, artist can get for their role. So she did a reasonably good job, I thought, especially in emotional scenes. She did a good job, fairly well restrained, but it could have been a little more tighter. The thing is, in hilly regions, say Kalimpong, Darjeeling, and most of the hilly regions, life is a bit slow. You know, it has its pacing, and that somewhere needed to get captured in the movie, I thought. So that was about the main three characters. Moving towards the plot line and end of story, I thought it could have finished at uh, T minus 20 in the last jail sequence, or T minus 15, I don't know. Like T as in end of the story, credits minus 15, in the sense when the jail sequence happens, the person meets, and no spoilers here, so don't worry, you can listen. One could have ended it right there. Then rest of it is exposition. And you're like, I was just about to get up and say, oh, okay, no. So there is more. Now I'm being explained what all happened. Well, you could have paced it, rearranged it a little better, and yet I'm just trying to see what's the total runtime. It's 2 hours plus, if I'm not mistaken, right? And so it could have come down a little bit. It's 2 hours 19 minutes. That's I thought 2 hour 5 minute would have been a good time for it to wrap up. But let me wrap up now. Overall, would I watch this movie again? Answer is yes. Would I recommend it? Answer is yes. People who love the mood, the sentiment which captures you and sucks you in that location and story. Great job done. Could it have been little smarter and little more edgy? Answer is yes. The other thing, only one thing request, if Mr. Sujay ever sees this, I thought you could have pushed the envelope a little bit, either by way of intimacy between the cop and Miss Khan, Mr. Verma's character and Miss Khan's character, or the darkness of the crime could have been little more edgy, like little darker, little more graphic. It's like it gives you the heebie-jeebies, like, oh my God, what is this? And it's like what I'm drawing a crude parallel here, so not even a fair parallel in some sense, but how Game of Thrones pushed the envelope, right? Just like when you just don't expect it, it's just there in your face, right? So uh, probably in your next movie, I guess. So overall, much better watch than some of the loads of crap that gets churned out in the name of great movies. This is clearly one of those movies which you should definitely give it a watch. If you like crime thrillers, slow burns, then this is would be highly recommended. I do not do any ratings, so I'll not say it's a 5 star or a 2 star. That's artistic merit is artistic merit. Some parts are good, some part could have been better, and that's the whole idea and intent of sharing this in this podcast. Hope you enjoyed listening to this podcast. That's a wrap for this episode. I will come back with another episode, another movie, another trailer. If you want me to review a movie, a web series, if I've already seen it, and I will review it like this, just like I said. It's not like I'm going to give away the story or anything, but just discuss about the movie. And if you disagree in some way, happy to get corrected. None of it is etched in stone. It's just a fan reacting as a movie lover, as an Indian entertainment lover. One shares their point of view. So I really hope you enjoyed this podcast. Please do like and share and subscribe to people you think who would care for something like this. Until we meet next time, stay well, stay safe, and peace out. This is your host, Ayan, and you are listening to Aayanisms.